Hello and welcome to the Australian National Maritime Museum. My name's Michael Harvey and I'm the Assistant Director here at the museum. And over the course of the next little while I'm going to be giving you a short behind the scenes tour of the museum and some of the things we do here. We're standing on Gadigal land. This is the traditional country of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I'd like to acknowledge them, their elders past and present, and their stewardship of this land. Because where we're standing here on Gadigal country, we're standing underneath these magnificent ghost nets. And ghost nets are a great symbol of what the museum is all about. They symbolise the oceans, they symbolise the sustainability and human use of the oceans through the fishing nets that they're made out of. They also speak to the creativity of Australia's people as they harvest the nets and turn them into beautiful artworks. And those artworks themselves represent the different aspects of our life on the oceans. The creatures in the oceans and the interrelationships between those creatures and human navigation of the oceans. And it's those topics that we're going to be talking about a little on our tour. Part of what we're always trying to do here at the museum is to find stories that connect different aspects of that history together. And the object behind me, the Seahawk helicopter donated to the museum by the Royal Australian Navy last year, is one that does exactly that. Its stories encompass Australia's defence. The helicopter here was involved in conflicts in the Gulf and anti-piracy activities off the coast of Africa. But it also connects to Australia's recreational and adventure sailing history through the fact that this object was involved in rescuing sailors from the 1998 Sydney-Hobart yacht race, when the fleet ran into extraordinarily bad weather and tragically 6 sailors were lost, but many more were rescued. The tiger tail on the helicopter represents the Navy Squadron 816 squadron that operated the Seahawk helicopters, and their squadron badge is the face of a tiger. The Navy were kind enough to present the helicopter to us in its full tiger livery, creating a beautiful display object as well as an object of deep historical significance. We're standing inside one of the museum's exhibition galleries, but this is a gallery in transition. The team is in the process of creating a new exhibition here called Under Southern Skies, which tells stories of the history of navigation of Australian waters through the millennia. Where I'm standing now, you'll see a 12-metre long dugout canoe from the Sepik River region in Papua New Guinea. And the cases around me are being prepared for objects such as astronomical equipment, maps, charts, and artworks from all of the people who've explored these waters. The exhibition will touch on the stories of Indigenous navigators and their first trade with the Macassan people of Indonesia. It will explore the history of the European navigators who came here, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the French, and the English, who came looking to understand astronomical phenomena such as the transit of Venus, but also to create maps and charts documenting the lands on the other side of the world. One of the great things about the Australian National Maritime Museum is that it's a real indoor-outdoor museum. In addition to the galleries and exhibitions in the building, we also have a collection of historic vessels on the wharf outside. And this is a really diverse collection. It includes everything from small fishing boats to large naval vessels such as our destroyer and our submarine. We have historic replicas like the replica of the Endeavour, and also historic yachts such as the Kathleen Gillette or the steam yacht Ina. And those together make for a really dynamic and diverse experience here at the museum. To look after these vessels requires a set of very particular skills. And we're going to meet one of the museum's shipwrights, Cody Horgan, who's going to talk to us about what he's doing here with the fleet. What we have here is the replica of the Endeavour, which as a working vessel, it actually sails, needs a lot of looking after. So Cody Horgan is one of our shipwrights. Cody's going to tell us about what he's working on today, but also what do you do at the museum in general?
Yeah, g'day guys. My name's Cody Horgan. I'm the shipwright on the Endeavour. My work here is to maintain the vessel behind you. It's a lot of work, as you can see. It's about 100 foot long. This is the main yard, and we're building a new one at the moment. This is the old piece of timber that used to be up there. It's got a bit of rot in there, and it's very uncertain, what sort of condition it is now, and we're just going to replace it. We're building a brand new one over there. I'll show you in a minute, I guess.
So Cody, where does this one normally live?
So this particular yard lives on the mainmast, just there. Below the tops, that platform up there, and sits across the ship and holds the biggest sail of the ship up there. Probably a couple of tons worth of sail and a couple more tons when it's wet, so yeah, a lot of weight. And then we use it to lift the safety boat out with, and also people stand on these foot ropes down here, and usually 10 to 12 people stand up there, and it's pretty heavy, so it's got to support a lot of weight.
So we really need it to work?
It's got to work properly.
All right, let's have a look at the new one then. Cody, this doesn't look a lot like a yard. You've got a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. So in the scheme of things, this is about 2/5 of what we've got to create. So the yard is laminated out of 42mm thickness material times 2, so 2 planks side by side, 42mm thick. It's a big thing. It's got to end up being about 300mm square, but we've only got planks like these to work with, and they're 175 by 42 mil in diameter. That's a lot of building up to sort of get the thickness that we need.
So what's the wood?
It's Oregon. Well, it's actually Douglas fir, but when the Oregon first came to Australia, it was written as Oregon because that's where it came from, and since then Australians have called it Oregon, but it's actually Douglas fir. It's a great spar-making timber. It's very strong, very durable, and very flexible. It's great for mast and yards. So
about how long will it take you to take it from this to that?
So it's going to take over a month and a half. Actually.
Wow. Yeah. A huge amount of work.
There is.
Seeing it when it's done.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, cheers.
I've talked about the fact that the museum is an indoor and an outdoor museum. We have the building, we have our vessels, we have the outdoor Elysium Arctic exhibition here, but also on our Darling Harbour site we have the Wharf 7 building. That's where our offices, our collection storage areas, our laboratories, and a lot of the back of house work that goes into making the museum goes on. I'm going to show you a bit about Wharf 7 and we'll meet some of the people who work there. The next place we're going to visit is the museum's conservation lab. This is where the museum's objects are prepared for display and cared for future generations. And with a huge variety of objects, some of them three-dimensional, some of them works on paper, we need a team with a whole bunch of different specialisations. And Luci Ronai here is a paper conservator, and she's going to tell us all about what she's doing with the museum's paper collection. Hey Lucy.
So right now I'm working on a collection of items called Admiral Paris collection, and they're all going on display in the under southern skies. With paper items, they're really susceptible to light damage, so we have to make sure they're only on display for a short time, which is great when we have a whole collection because some of them will be on display and then others will get to swap out. So I actually have some that I'm treating if you want to.
Fantastic. How old are these objects?
They date from the 1800s. We have a date range of 1841 to 1843. So Admiral Paris circumnavigated the world 3 times, and these are all vessels that he found in the Pacific that are non-European. So we have engravings, which is what you're seeing here, of the vessel, and then he also has lithographs of the vessels in action, which is pretty cool. So right now this is on the suction table. I'm just going to switch it on, it's going to be a bit noisy.
Okay. Yeah, that's not quiet.
Not at all. So the idea is the suction table sucking air through, so we're able to apply moisture on this side. So I use this spray and brushes and little tools, and it's sucking the air through and with it the moisture and giving it a really beautiful wash. The reason why we're doing this is because it's a bit vulnerable. We have to do a lot of testing with what we're working on, and the media, the printed media, is a bit vulnerable, so we have to make sure we're careful. So I've actually got some examples of the successful washing, and the reason why we do washing is to improve the condition of the items and remove acidic degradation and also discoloration. So you'll see a lot of yellow stuff. So this is all from the different suction table washes I did of that same print. And so this is the most recent wash, and as I go further back, the first few washes I did get really impressive in terms of the discoloration that I managed to get out.
So how many times have you had to do this one work?
Oh, a few times. So I guess we have to choose at some point that enough's enough, because when we're doing exhibition preparation, we do have a deadline. So this was the first wash and this was very successful.
Fantastic. And looking forward to seeing it on display.
Yeah, me too.
Having had a look at the museum's conservation lab, where the collections are cared for and prepared for display, we're now going to move into one of the museum's object store areas. This is where the collection is cared for over the long term. And with 148,000 objects in the museum's collection, like most museums on Earth, it's only a small proportion of the collection that is ever on display at one time. So for most of the time, the objects are stored in here, and they're looked after by people like Cameron Mclean from our registration team. So Cameron's going to show us around the large object store and have a look at some of the things on display there. So let's have a look.
Let's have a look. Lots of things in the store. We're very lucky to have such a great large store so close to the museum. We've got a Nawi boat here, which is a traditional Indigenous vessel from the Sydney Harbour region. And this has been made a few years ago. There was a few made as a part of an education program.
Yeah, because we have to remember that Indigenous people were navigating these waterways for tens of thousands of years, for multiple generations. So this is a great connection to the very earliest maritime heritage of Australia. But then as we move over here, we've got more modern objects. These are classic rowing shells. In fact, this one's a significant one from the Olympics, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the Awesome Foursome, a very very famous crew and vessel.
It's one of the nice things about this story is it gives you a sense of the diversity of objects we have here. We have things dating back to pre-European times. We have things that are like this flying boat that represent that period where sea travel is giving way to air travel. You've got objects that deal with the merchant history of Australia, the sporting history of Australia, and all of these things actually have their touch points in the maritime collection.
We've got quite a few boats
these are
tucked
beautiful.
away in here.
Yeah,
We've got some classic speedboats, 1950s. The one behind us from the 30s.
And this one is really special because it's actually about to move from store to display. This is a spectacular object.
It may have some real presence in the gallery. You don't realise how big it is, but it's over 12 metres, which is pretty much a semi-trailer in length. So looking forward to putting this one on next week.
So this is one of these monster moves. How are you planning on getting it from here to the gallery?
Well, we did look at planning getting a truck and loading it, but I think the simplest way would just be to roll it, seeing we're close by, but it will have to be up the street. So it's going to look bizarre for people passers by to see a dugout canoe rolling up the street.
We've reached the end of our very quick behind-the-scenes tour at the Australian National Maritime Museum. Like all museums, it's a really special place to work. No 2 days are the same, and there's a tremendous variety of things to see and do. Really hope you've enjoyed your tour. It's been a pleasure showing you around. Thank you.